If there was one thing that makes Gina's disappearance especially difficult to understand, it's what was happening in her life at the time. Investigators often look for warning signs: troubled relationships, plans to leave town, financial desperation. They look for statements that suggest someone was preparing to disappear. In Gina's case, however, those closest to her saw something very different. What they saw was a woman looking forward to the future. October 16th, 2000 began as a day of celebration. There was excitement in the household. One of Gina's sons had just returned home from a trip to Disney World with his grandmother. And like any child returning from a major adventure, he was eager to share every detail. And there was another reason to celebrate. It was her oldest son's birthday. For Gina, family was everything. And her day was already full before she ever set foot inside Duggan's pub. This is part 2, the disappearance of Gina Bos. A side note here about Duggan's pub, as it comes up quite a bit in the story. It's almost a character itself inside this story, somewhat central to it. Not only was it the last place Gina had been seen, but Gina had worked there on and off. And also on that already busy day, October 16th, 2000, one of Gina's friends was hosting a baby shower there that evening. Although Gina no longer worked there, she remained familiar with the place and many of the people who gathered there. Gina arrived for the baby shower at Duggan's pub around 5:30 p.m., with the baby shower beginning at approximately 6 p.m. At first, the plan seemed simple: spend some time with friends, attend the shower, then head back home to be with her children. Nothing unusual, nothing remarkable, just another ordinary evening. But during the baby shower celebration, the conversation shifted, because that night happened to be open mic night at Duggan's. Friends began encouraging Gina to come back later and perform. Music had always been one of the great loves of her life. Still, though, she hesitated. She had already planned to spend the evening at home. Her children were there, and it was her son's birthday. She really had no intention of staying out late. Family members would later say Gina initially resisted the idea. She explained that she wanted to be with the kids that night, but friends persisted. Just come back for a little while, play a few songs, see some old friends. And eventually, Gina agreed that if she wasn't too tired later that evening, she would return and perform. And with that, she left the shower and headed back home. And it would be the last time some people would ever see her. Back at home, life carried on normally. The family spent time together celebrating the birthday, and there were adventure stories from Disney World, birthday conversations, the kinds of simple moments families often take for granted. No one knew these would become some of the final memories of Gina. No one noticed anything unusual, no signs of distress, no indication that she was afraid, no indication that she was planning to leave. In fact, everything seemed to suggest the opposite, because Gina was a woman making plans, looking ahead, building a future. Sometime later that evening, Gina prepared to return to Duggan's, and as always, her guitar would come with her. Harley. Yes, Harley. The steady instrument that had been with her through the years of struggles, dreams, and performances. Along with the guitar came sheet music. She intended to sing. Nothing more, nothing less. According to family accounts, Gina and Mike left the house sometime between 10 and 11 p.m. The plan for the evening was straightforward: go to the pub, play a few songs there, and then return home. It was all routine, and it should have been a straightforward, routine night. At some point during the drive to Duggan's, Gina and Mike got into an argument. Accounts about the argument suggest that the disagreement was relatively minor, and rather than continue the discussion, Gina agreed to drop him off at his apartment. Mike's apartment was only about 10 blocks from Duggan's pub. It was close enough that she could easily pick him up after she was finished performing, and that became the plan. Mike would wait at his apartment, and Gina would perform. When Gina was done, she would pick Mike up at his apartment, and both head back to her house. At least that was the intention. As far as anyone knows, that was the last time Mike Johnson would ever see Gina again. To understand the mystery, it's important to understand the setting. Duggan's Pub sat near 11th and K Streets in Lincoln. It was a neighborhood establishment, a familiar place, a place where musicians gathered, a place where the regulars knew each other. It was a place where Gina felt comfortable. After all, she had worked there previously, and she knew the staff. She knew many of the crowd there, and she also knew the other musicians. That night, as she arrived, Gina parked her Saturn across the street from the pub, a detail that would later become critically important. Inside Duggan's, the atmosphere was lively. Open mic night was underway. Musicians rotated on and off the stage. Conversations filled the room. People laughed and people sang. According to nearly everyone who spoke with investigators afterward, Gina appeared happy. Very happy. One friend later described her as ecstatic, not merely content, not simply having a good evening, ecstatic. She spoke excitedly about her recent promotion, becoming a manager at Kinko's. For years, she had struggled financially. Now she was finally seeing stability. She talked about the Habitat for Humanity home. Gina was talking about the future. And friends would later say this was among the happiest they had seen her in years. One of the people she spoke with that night was her ex-husband, David Bos. Though their marriage had ended, their friendship still remained. And David would later tell investigators that Gina seemed upbeat, saying later that she was in a really good mood, optimistic in fact, excited about where life was heading. Nothing about the interaction raised concern. Nothing suggested that trouble was waiting outside. Throughout the evening, Gina took the stage, and the crowd enjoyed her performance. Music had always been where Gina felt most comfortable, and that night appeared no different. After she performed, she returned to the stage to help provide backup vocals for another group performing at the pub. And it was exactly the kind of evening Gina loved. Music, friends, conversation, hope. And looking back now, it almost feels cruel, because while everyone inside was enjoying the night, no one realized they were witnessing the final confirmed hours of Gina Bos's life. And outside, beyond the lights and music of a neighborhood pub, the darkness was waiting. Stay tuned for part 3.